It is very hard to not look at Kevin Stefanski and say that he has not been given talent. Like, that is a very clear, if you want to keep Kevin Stefanski and you're in the boat of this Jeremy Fowler, Dan Graziano report, I totally understand that he hasn't been given anybody since Baker Mayfield was there. I think the biggest indictment that you have against the guy, at least especially this year, is this was supposed to be the year that you get back to the Kevin Stefanski offense, and it was the Kevin Stefanski team. And what did he do 9 weeks into the season? He handed the play calling over to the 33-year-old first-time NFL offensive coordinator. How much have we been complaining about Bubba Ventrone? How much last year did we complain about some of the coaches on the staff that all got cleaned out? And, Mike Vrabel ended up having to coach the offensive line. Who makes those decisions? That's Kevin Stefanski. And then the final thing is they're just not winning. Like, they're 6 and however many in the last couple of years.
And you're right.
And that's all it comes down to. Like, we can talk about processes and verticals and Dylan Gabriel and Shador and whether or not they should have traded a backup quarterback in Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco. None of that matters. They're not winning anymore.
Well, and you are, everybody goes to the Parcells line. You are what your record says you are.
And at some point, they need to look themselves in the eye and say, this is what we are with this regime. This is what we are with Kevin Stefanski. It has been a carousel of quarterbacks. It's been a carousel of offensive linemen and wide receivers. Totally understand. But it's also been a carousel of coaching and play calling and all these different decision-making that you are supposed to be in charge of. And then the moments when you step back to be the quote-unquote CEO of the franchise, your special teams falters, your defense gets, ran through a little bit late in the games. It all happened last year. Like, these things continue to happen.
So the defense is the interesting one, because I kind of wondered if at some point we would run into this situation where the defense would, and I'm not saying they're doing this because I don't know well enough to slam the table and say this is happening, but we all know how life works, right? With your own job. If things are going south around you, you only do everything that you can to drag this thing up to a certain point, and then you look around and go, I need to look out for me. Mm-hmm. And I partially wonder if what you saw in that game is exactly the defensive players going, I need to start looking out for me. I need to start going for, instead of me making sure I'm gap sound and all that stuff, I'm going to go for the sack. Instead of me making 100% sure that my zone is cleared out and all that stuff, I'm going to leave my zone and try to go get that pick. And I was kind of waiting for the minute that would start taking place. And that's, by the way, not meant to be a slam to the Browns defense or any player or anything else like that. That's just human nature. That's just how all of us react in those situations, is when everything around you is going south, you are doing the best you can to make yourself look great and get paid. And how do you do that? Through the counting stats.
Well, and Dan, what's been the biggest plus of this Browns team in the last couple of years? It's been the defense.
Yep.
Well, how much credit do you give Kevin Stefanski for that?
It's a good question.
I mean, so the one bright spot of this entire Kevin Stefanski post Deshaun Watson, whatever we're going to call this last couple years era, has been a unit that we don't think Kevin Stefanski has anything to do with. We think that he's handed the keys off to Jim Schwartz and has set sail and focused solely on the offense, and now, I don't know, whatever he can do with the special teams. So your one bright spot you have nothing to do with. But then again, I have every single ESPN and insider telling me how fantastic of a coach he is, and how, the second that he gets fired on Black Monday, the next day that he'll be a head coach with the Giants or the Titans. How does that make any sense?
Reputation. I mean, the reputation of the franchise that he's currently working with. The idea that everybody is looking around. I mean, goodness, your owner even admitted it was a giant swing and a miss, and he basically handcuffed the boulder immediately to the neck. Mm. I mean, that's the only way that you could describe what ended up happening. So how do you even look at your coach and say, get us out of this, when your best asset had micro tears in his shoulder that needed, surgery in between there, then tore his Achilles on top of that when you supposedly overhauled an offense to help him along the way.
Good coaches are supposed to be able to get these teams out of this situation. We're seeing it right now in Indianapolis. I know that Drake May and Caleb Williams
but that roster is loaded, bud. That roster was loaded. And you just dropped Daniel Jones in and basically said, don't goof this up, bud.
Good coach. I totally understand. And we've seen it with the Commanders were not good last year. They went to the NFC Championship game.
Give you.
I know that Caleb Williams and Drake May are top-end like rookie, second year quarterback. So I understand that. But I mean, how glowingly did we look at the Patriots last year? And now they're the best team in football record wise.
I mean, Drake May took a leap this year, and props to him for being able to do that.
Were you perturbed by Bubba Ventrone yesterday saying that he has the support of Kevin Stefanski in the organization?
I wasn't perturbed. I wasn't shocked. I think that's the problem with it. I think apathy set in with it because I know that they're not going to make any moves because if they were going to do it, they would have did it at the bye week.
Apathy set in a long time ago.
like I feel like I just accepted it because the Bubba Ventrone thing, like I would have moved on from Bubba Ventrone because I think there needs to be some kind of accountability. At this point, if you do it, it feels like, all right, here's your pound of flesh. Like that's kind of what this feels like at this point. It very much feels like, all right, fan base, here's torches and pitchforks, here's your pound of flesh. You could yell and scream and, get mad at this. And it's kind of one of those where it's like, what's the point? The ship's going down anyway. Like you're just all you're doing right there is looking at the Bubba Ventrone deck chair and going, I could either move this over here so that more people could sit, or maybe I could pick this thing up and just throw it over the bridge. But the ship's going to go down anyhow.
I didn't expect him to come out and be like, yeah, Kevin Stefanski's ripping me a new one every single day, and my seat is so hot I can't even sit down in it right now.
But even that I think would sound more like garbage than if he would have came out and said, oh yeah, I got the full support. It would have sounded more like garbage. He's like, oh boy, I got chewed. My old man came home after that, and oh boy, it was something that would have been out of a Leave It to Beaver episode.
It was like we've been agonizing over this stuff, and we just had to watch one of the worst special teams performances last Sunday, and you have the audacity to come on the podium and be like, oh yeah, Coach Kevin, he and I are tight. The organization and I, we're good to go. Like, if you're 3-9, if you're 6-25 in the last 2 years, nobody in that building should be anywhere other than coaching for their job and very unsafe. Like, they should be walking on pins and needles. The audacity to come on and be like, I'm good to go. Nobody on a team like this should not be looking over their shoulder. That is ridiculous. So I was perturbed by it.
I've noticed. But the problem that I have with what you're saying, let's continue the Titanic metaphor, right? We know how the story ends, okay?
She pushed him off the door.
So very true. So if let's say the ship is sailing and you have the iceberg right there, right? And you are Bubba Ventrone and you are Tommy Rees and Kevin Stefanski and all of those guys, right? And you're looking at it going, this thing's going down anyway. What am I to do? Like, am I really going to walk around and I'm busting my hump the same level that I was because I want to get another job after this and I don't want it coming out that I was, going Mike McCarthy and getting massages during team meetings when he was with the Packers. Like, you don't want that. So you would rather have something, that you're busting your hump. But what good comes it of me going out to the media and going, oh man, I gotta get this together. This thing is, I'm getting chewed left and right. I'm getting pressure from every single direction. Like what does that solve?
It would just be nice to hear from one of these coaches like, yeah, we understand the situation that we're in. We are 3-9. We're not doing good enough and we need to do better, or else we kind of know how the NFL works.
But you get that every Sunday and every Monday and every Wednesday and every Friday, and from your head coach, with everybody following up by going, I'm so sick and tired of him saying, we're going to get it fixed. What are we going to do? I don't want to hear him get it fixed. I want him to actually get it fixed. Like, it just falls under that same exact thing. It's all white noise at this point because we all know what's happening, which is, again, on that wonderful day in April, when the Cleveland Browns traded down from the second overall pick to get the Jacksonville Jaguars first round pick and took Mason Graham later on, the writing was on the wall. You knew right then and there. Like, you knew right then, they were like, all right, this is going to be a couple years. Like, that's the problem that I have, is I haven't lost that thought. I knew from Jump Street that this was going to be nasty and that this was going to be ugly and that they weren't going to have a boatload of talent and they were paying off the credit card of Deshaun Watson. This was watching the Cleveland Cavaliers after LeBron James left the first time, and you're sitting there watching Antoine Jameson in year 16 running three-point line to three-point line, making $30 million a year, and you're sitting there going, oh my God, that's what this was. And so maybe that's what's clouded my entire judgment of this thing of why I'm not as mad as a lot of the fans are, why not as mad as you are, is because I saw the writing on the wall that this was going to head south. And I knew the defense was going to be really good. And I went, the only way the offense is going to be able to handle this is if they turn around and hand the ball off 25 to 30 times a game and slow this thing down to a halt and try to win every single game 13-10. Now, I had no idea that they would turn around and trade Kenny Pickett for a bag of donuts, and then I had even less of an idea that they would turn around and trade Joe Flacco for a half-eaten hamburger.
So you know what's really funny is I had the same thought that you did after the draft.
Right.
Like, they are just building to go 10-7 in 2028 so that there's enough excitement to make people buy season tickets for the Dome in 2029. That has been my thought basically since they decided that they were going to Brook Park. And so I've resigned myself to the fact that these next couple of years are going to be trash, like absolute. It's a chore to watch. But I
don't think it's going to be a couple of years, but that's another argument for another day.
But I don't know if I thought it was going to be this bad. Like it's not a good coached team. That's what I was at least hoping. That's what you want out of a rebuild. Is you want to see progress in your young players. And we've seen, other than the defense, we've seen Quinshon Judkins progress. And everybody else regress. Jerry Jeudy is going AWOL like weekly at this point. Everybody else is regressing. The special teams is terrible. The offense is, we were just in the break talking about the 4th and 1. We're going to be screaming about, it seems like, until the end of the year, whether or not we should have punted. I just thought it would be, this is going to sound bad. I thought it would be better. I thought it would be a better bad team.
Well, you were hoping it was going to be a watchable 5-win team. You were hoping that they would cover the spread every single week and that they would be competitive and you would go into these fourth quarters and you would have the ball with 5 minutes left, down, touchdown to 3 points, somewhere in between there, and you would just have a shot.
It's like what Nick Wilson said at the beginning of the year. He said it beautifully. This is going to be the most competitive, best 5-win team you have ever seen.
Yeah.
And they're not.
And they're not. And I will give you that with certainty. But a part of me, again, this is the chicken or the egg situation that we are in the midst of right now. Is it because the coaching is in the toilet, or is it because the front office handed the coaching staff horrible ingredients? Like this is the whole thing that we are in the middle of when it comes to Kevin Stefanski, and why you can see that argument right there, why you can see a report from ESPN come around saying, hey, other teams are interested. It's fascinating.